Jonah, the 3rd chapter, verse number 1. And the word of the Lord came unto Jonah the 2nd time, saying, Arise and go to Nineveh, that great city, and preach unto it the preaching that I bid thee. So Jonah arose and went into Nineveh according to the word of the Lord. Now Nineveh was an exceedingly great city of 3 days' journey. And Jonah began to enter into the city a day's journey, and he cried and said, Yet 40 days and Nineveh shall be overthrown. You understand this here? Get the picture. It's 3 days walking across it. That's a big city. And 1 day into the city, he starts preaching. So the people of Nineveh believed God and proclaimed a fast and put on sackcloth from the greatest of them even to the least of them. For the word came unto the king of Nineveh, and he arose from his throne and laid his robe from him, covered him with sackcloth and set in ashes. And he caused it to be proclaimed and published throughout Nineveh by the decree of the kings and his nobles, saying, Let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock taste anything. Let them not feed nor drink water. Brother, that's a fast right there. But let man and beast be covered with sackcloth and cry mightily unto God. Yea, let them turn every one from his evil way and from the violence that is in their hand. Verse number 9 is where I'm going to be coming back to. Who can tell if God will turn and repent and turn away from his fierce anger that we perish not? And God saw their works, and they turned from their evil way, and God repented of the evil that he had said that he would do unto them, and he did it not. Turn to somebody. I'm not going to make you do this multiple times. I had to make the first service do this several times. I want to see how you do the first time. Turn to somebody and just say to them in a vigorous way, who can tell? You did better than the first service. You can sit down. I'm not going to make you do that again. You did good. Who can tell what might happen? See, this is one of those things. I want you to get this in your mind today. So many times people put situations in the impossible category to the place that they feel like there's no sense in praying about it anymore. Just reel in your faith, close up your prayer, and say, I guess it's not going to happen. But I'm going to be preaching for a few minutes today. Who can tell what is going to happen when you take that next step? Now, Nineveh was a wicked city, and it was a big city, kind of like Houston. Wicked and big. Maybe even had traffic problems. I'm going to say this today. Everywhere you go in Houston, there's traffic, but everywhere you go, they're working on something. And they're behind on it. I don't know if you ever get this feeling, but I'll be driving along. I've been sitting in traffic. Waze has already tried to redirect me. I get on the road, get off this road, get back on this road, and I've been in Houston all my life, so I argue with it all the time. I know I should be turning right. It said, no, go to the left and go on around here. And there are times I think the woman's going to come on there and say, go home. You can't get there. And so we have everywhere that we go, one of the roads is being worked on. And has this ever happened to you where you fought through traffic and you get up there where the construction's going on and there's one guy with a shovel? Equipment everywhere lying dormant, and there's one guy over there with a shovel. Just is this what's holding? No wonder we can't get this built. Nineveh was large, it was evil, it was violent, it was wicked, no different than any major city in the world today, but God sent judgment to that city, and he sent it through the mouth of the prophet Jonah. You go tell them 40 days and Nineveh is going to be overthrown. That's a timetable that's scary to me. It's almost like Nineveh had to know we don't have forever. This is not like if you don't straighten your act up, something bad's going to happen. This is 40 days, and this thing's coming down. So get ready for that. Listen, every one of us ought to feel the urgency of the hour. When we preach today, it is because today is the day of salvation. Now is the accepted time. This putting things off to another day, you can't keep that up. One day the last ticket's going to be pulled and time is going to be no more. This is the day to do what you need to do. You got to do that. And so there were great sins there. There were liars in Nineveh. There were people that did all kinds of evil things, kind of like you have in a church. And And I don't mean that to denigrate the church at all. I'm just, we're made up of all imperfect people. And so that's what you get when you come here. It really bothers me a lot of times when churches really put on the sanctimonious thing, because really there a lot of them, when they really put that on sometimes and they get that high, that high spiritual thing, a lot of times they're just whistling in the graveyard to keep their courage up. Because really and truly, the bottom line is, if the Lord ever judged them, they would not make it. But they like to make everybody think that they're okay. I don't know if you remember this or not. Brother Godwin said this the other day, and I want you to stamp this in your mind. I want you to put it in your head, put it in your pipe, and put it in your pocket. And don't ever forget what he said when he was talking about holiness and how we dress, which is a very vital part. It's a very important thing. But he said the dress is the easiest thing to fake. See, this is good enough. I might buy my own tape. Because that right there is something that you need to remember from now on. A lot of times people fake that. So that's the easy thing to fake. They got all of that. They dotted every T, except that old dirty heart in there. That old wicked gossiping spirit in there. That old evil judgmental spirit that's down in there. That's what you got to get fixed up. That's what's really got to get fixed. And let me tell you, if you don't want to take it from me or Brother Godwin, you need to take it from Jesus. Jesus said, let me tell you what you guys are doing. You're cleaning the outside of the cup, but inside is dirty and filthy things inside. Let's get the inside straightened up. Amen. There was a shortness of time, 40 days, and Nineveh is going to be overthrown. I don't want you to put down Jonah that much, because listen, I don't know that I would have gone and preached the message he was having to preach in a city like Nineveh, because back then they didn't just say, well, just ignore him. What they did is the king said, what's he saying? Kill that man. That was the end of it. And that's why he didn't want to go. He said, Lord, I'll go somewhere, but I think I'll go to Tarshish. And the Lord said, I'm not sending you to Tarshish. I'm sending you to Nineveh to tell them 40 days and they're going to be overthrown. We don't even know exactly what that judgment looked like. We didn't know if they were going to be overthrown by an army. We didn't know if they were going to have an earthquake or brimstone was going to fall from heaven. We didn't know what that was going to look like, but 40 days is all they had. And somebody believed that God meant what he said. And so the king said, we're going to have a fast and prayer time. And I don't want the children eating anything. No Skittles, no nothing. I don't want anybody having anything to eat. And some of those that fast, you know how Pentecostals fast? There was no Daniel fast in this deal. I remember one time they would say, we're going to go on a Daniel fast, and all you could eat was vegetables and all this stuff. You know, they had this sort of thing. He's like, I could do that. I love vegetables. 3 days on vegetables, I hate vegetables. I hate all kinds of vegetables. But there was no vegetable diet here. There was no, well, we're going to cut back on coffee. No, there was nothing like that. It's like, I don't want them drinking. I don't want them eating. I don't want the cattle to get anything to eat. I mean, sparrows would fly up somewhere and somebody would be there saying no. Everything was fasting and everything was praying. And we're going to have a declaration and a proclamation. I'm going to have this throughout, that everybody's going to sit down and get in sackcloth, put that rough cloth around their bodies. I want everybody to have ashes. Sit down in the ashes and humble yourself and repent. Who can tell what God will do? Armed without mercy, armed without a promise, they decided to call on the Lord, and the Lord turned against what he was going to do, and he opened up the door of mercy. See, there's some of you that say, well, I prayed about it so much about myself and nothing seems to happen. But who can tell what will happen today? Well, I prayed for my family situation and nothing's worked out. But who can tell what will happen today? Early this morning, about 5 o'clock, I woke up. I don't recommend this, but I'm certain some of you do this. For some stupid reason, I always reach over and get my phone. I want to know what the temperature is. The other thing is you got to just see if somebody sent you something during the night or there's some message that you need to know. I even got the little news app, you know, it kind of brings up things. I got to know if there's collusion or contention or collisions or whatever's going on, you know. I'm going through all of that. You know, a lot of times when you look at the news, it's like the same, second verse, same as the first. Could get better, but it's going to get worse. It's just the same old, same old. And when I pulled that up, it was a text from from Tracy. And they were at the hospital with Jamie. Sister Macey and I had gone up and prayed for her a few days ago. Jamie's a little girl in our church. She has cystic fibrosis, and she is in desperate need of a miracle. And so she's been working to get on the lung transplant list. That's how serious it is. It's life and death. So we put her name up there. That's not just so we can say, oh, Lord, you see those names up there. It's so that you, me, all of us can call her name in prayer. Some of you will go by and pray for her. I prayed for her the other day. She's sitting right over there. And I went over there and I put my arm on her shoulder and I said, I've been praying for you. So glad to see you. It was like touching this desk here, so small. 80 pounds, 84 pounds, or something like that. I said, is it 84 pounds? And she said, 80 something. And I said, 84 right here. This leg. Well, not just this leg, but this side. And I said, Jamie, I could transfer fat to you. But I said, it's going to take one of those hoses like they use at the vacuum cleaner at the car wash. It's going to be something like that. Found out later on that she didn't want any fat transfer from me or her mom or any of y'all others. Said it seemed like she's particular about her fat, certain kinds of fat. And so we were cutting up about that, but then it was just a few days later, started running fever, had to go in the hospital. She was in the hospital, and last night it was a serious deal. She's in ICU, and so I text Tracy back and said, I'm now seeing this because I went to sleep, and after I'd gone to sleep, she had texted that message, and I said, we're praying for her right now. I've already got her on the prayer list. I'd already put her on the prayer list, and so I said, we're going to be praying for her. And then laying there in bed in those few moments, looking at that note, I just thought, I said this to the Lord. I said, God, I prayed for Jamie everywhere I know how, every way I know how to pray. I have wept. I have declared. I have stepped in faith. I have used the words of God that you use when you're talking about healing and deliverance and miracles. I said, God, I don't even know any other way to pray, but I'm going to pray for her today again. Because who can tell what can happen one more time? Listen. The prophet told the servant at the 6th time, he's looking out to see if there's any rain. There's still no rain, no sign of rain, no thundercloud, nothing going on, not even a wind blowing. Go one more time. He goes out the 7th time, and a cloud like a man's hand out there in the distance, and he said, that's what I'm waiting on. I'm going to say to you today, listen to me, you may have gone once, you may have gone twice, you may have prayed 3 times, but who can tell what today will bring? So somewhere when we pray, some little lady that don't think she has faith calls on the name of the Lord for somebody on that list, and God instantly does it. Oh, you say, well, Pastor, what about Nineveh? I'll tell you about Nineveh. When they had the Nineveh town hall meeting and they started discussing, have y'all seen the crazy man with seaweed wrapped around his head? Yeah, he smells like whale insides. Yeah, that's right. They said he was vomited up on the beach. And what's he saying? Well, he's saying 40 days and we're going to be overthrown. The king evidently believes the craziness. Is there any mercy? Didn't say anything about mercy. You know, there's times it said, if my people which are called, I will do this. If they'll humble themselves, but there was no mercy in this at all. 40 days, Nineveh's going to be overthrown. The king had in his vocabulary, who can tell? It's not going to hurt us by trying. It's not going to hurt us by doing this again. I'm asking you to go again to the well. I'm asking you to go back to the cruise that seems to be empty and look at it again. God has not finished with what he's going to do in your life. Amen. No mercy attached to it. It wasn't anything. Here's what Nineveh knew. They knew what God did with Pharaoh, and they knew what God did with Sennacherib, and all of those were judgment things. And so all they knew was the judgment of God. They knew nothing about the mercy of God. They didn't know anything about the goodness of God. But they just thought, who can tell? Maybe this will be different. Maybe we can change God's mind. And do you realize that something you don't see usually attached to God? As the Bible said, God repented of what he was going to do. And he didn't do it. Listen to me. There are some things that in the course of life is carrying you along in the stream. And as far as destiny is concerned, you're fixing to go off the edge. But when the who can tell gets involved and you start calling on the Lord, there is no telling what God can do in that instance and in that moment. There's no telling what God can do in that second. That slender ground of hope. Even though there's no proclamation of mercy. Even though there's nothing in there that says, you can still ask me. It's 40 days final. You're going to be overthrown. Well, I prayed for myself so much I don't ever seem to be able to get out of this depression. I can't seem to ever get out of the circumstances and the situation that I'm in. I can't ever seem to get past some of the failures that I have. Seems like I just repeat it over and over again. I don't really think the Lord's going to forgive me because he's forgiven me so much. See, some of you think God's up there with a coupon book, ripping out pages. All right, I forgave you last week. I forgave you another time. You're getting down to the end. And there was even people back in the day when I was growing up, I haven't heard this terminology in years, but I've had people when I was growing up that would say, I hope they haven't sinned away their day of grace. And you know what they meant by that? They meant that you'd reach a place where you just sin away, you just do things so long until the Lord would never have any hope for you. There would be nothing that God would ever do to extend grace to you again. Because that's why the Bible said his mercy is renewed every day, because he knows that this is everyday people here. Everyday people need everyday mercy, because sometimes we don't plan to mess it up, but we mess it up. And when we do, we've got mercy there after us. I'm just telling you, don't quit. I don't care if everybody else has given up on you. You don't know what God will do if you will call on him. Pray for your family. I know you got a crazy aunt. I know you got people in your family that's goofy. But who can tell what God will do? Well, I've been trying to get a better job. There's just no better job for. Who can tell what will happen? Well, the only way I can move up, this guy, he's been in this thing for years, but he's already told us he could retire right now, but he said he's not going to retire for another 5 years, so it'll be 5 years before I can move up. Who can tell what can happen if you start praying? All of a sudden, he's never fished in his life, but he gets a hankering to fish. He's never been a hunter, but he just got to thinking, I'm working every day. I could be hunting. I don't even like it, but I think I'm going to retire and become a hunter. Who can tell? Yeah, Naaman, there's no sense in you doing anything because the prophet didn't give you the answer that you wanted. He said, go dip in Jordan 7 times. And so you might as well forget it. You're going to die a leper. Nobody wants to have anything to do with you. You're a leper. In that old muddy river, Jordan, if you've ever been in a muddy river, muddy rivers have muddy bottoms. I don't know if you know that or not. But you step in that muddy bottom river, and that old ugly muck squishes up between your toes, and that's where he's standing. And with holding his nose possibly, he goes down that first time, and it's dirty, it's muddy, and it probably smells like dirty mud if you've ever experienced that. He goes down that first time, nothing happens. That's what I thought. Second time, nothing. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth. He goes down the 6th time, it's nothing. It's so frustrating going down again and again and again. I'm not going up, I'm going down. I'm going down 6 times. But who can tell what the 7th time is going to bring? And when he goes down the 7th time, he comes up, his skin is like a baby's skin. I'm asking you today, do not stop marching around your walls. Your Jericho walls are going to fall. I'll close with this. Throw yourself at the cross. Who can tell? I prayed for Jamie. It wasn't any different than I prayed many times. I've cried thousands of tears for Jamie. My heart breaks for her. It grieves me to see the life that she has in her. Talking about volunteering, Pastor Dan Castleberry was saying today at Friend Day, over 30 new volunteers. We have about 200 volunteers, but there were 30 brand new ones for Friend Day. Thank y'all for that. Jamie devotes her time to come when she feels good. She'll come to the church, spend all day, not make a penny, work all day long, dusting, cleaning, picking up, organizing, putting the worship guides together, doing all the things that she needs to do. She's missed most major holidays, Christmases. She spent Christmas in the hospital. She spent Thanksgivings in the hospital. Every time it gets close to one of the youth activities, she starts, oh, I hope everything goes all right. I want to go to youth congress. I want to go to a holiday youth convention. And I've seen her at times where it gets so close, but then she ended up in the hospital. The list goes on and on. It grieves me. That breaks my heart for her. I wished I could do something. But then I realized I have the greatest weapon. My cry going up to God. Who can tell? Well, you're the pastor if you keep on. No. Sometimes it's a dad who comes and pleads for his son. Or sometimes it's a dad that comes and says, my daughter is laying sick. And somebody comes and says, she's died. Don't even trouble the master. And the Lord said, look, Dad, I'm going to take care of that. It's just sometimes a father that comes and says, Lord, help me. My son is vexed with the devil. He throws himself into the fire and sometimes into the water. The disciples prayed for him and nothing happened. But who can tell what Jesus would do? Looking into the face of a father in desperation. And he turns to that father and says, go back. She's healed. When that father got back and opened that door, that little girl was sitting there in peace and in her right mind. There was that feeling. The father had to know, when did it happen? Well, it happened this time of the hour, this watch. That's exactly the time that I was talking to the Lord, and the Lord took care of it. If you're on the ministry team, or if you're on the altar team, I want you to come and stand here in the front and face the congregation. Start at this little step, from this step to this step, in the front, right here in the front. I know sometimes people don't want to get right in front of me because they're going to block me, but just let my head be seen, none of this below me. That way they'll think that I gave all that to Jamie. Stand right there. Y'all come on up. Get on in a little bit closer. There you go, there you go. Now let me show you something. I'm not asking everybody to come when we stand in just a minute. But if you've had things you've asked God for and it hasn't come to pass, I have a mandate from the throne today to tell you that this is going to be your day. Who can tell? Well, I've had the Desmonds pray for me, and I've had the Obedibos pray for me, and so far nothing's happened. But has Gloria prayed for you? Who can tell who it will be? Sometimes it's just that one more step. Sometimes it's just, well, let down your net on the other side. Well, it's not that far from here to there. Whatever fish are here has to be there. Or if there's no fish here, there can't be any fish there. But it's just that action of faith to go to the other side. So when you get up today and say, I'll find somebody, and I'll say, my family, or maybe one of you today would say, I prayed for Jamie too, Pastor. I'm going to come in her place. Who can tell what that will do? Let's stand together. They're going to sing. They're going to worship. And all I'm asking you to do, this is not a deal where you just, hey, let's just come down and stand for a few minutes. If you want God to do something marvelous, if Nineveh got an answer without a promise, you can have an answer with a promise. God's promised you stuff, and you might as well get it today. Who can tell what this Sunday morning is going to bring? While they're singing it, just make your way up here. Find somebody and say, pray with me about that need. Pray with me about this need. Yeah.
Thanks for watching this video. If it has blessed you in any way, consider subscribing to our YouTube channel by clicking the button to your right. Also, if you'd like to partner with Royalwood Church to reach more people with the gospel of Jesus Christ, click the Give Now button to your right as well. Thank you so much for watching, and God bless.